Now.
On 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
5:06 as we start your Wednesday here in the nation's capital. Welcome aboard the O'Connor and Company choo-choo train. We are plowing through and getting it done. At 6:05, Angela Morabito, Defense of Freedom Institute. 6:35, Cal Thomas. 7:05, Hans von Spakovsky on the challenges to Trump's inclusion on the presidential ballot. At 8:05, Adam Gillette, Accuracy and Media, to do a victory lap over his efforts to expose Claudine Gay, the president of Harvard. Is it Claudine? Wait, I got her name wrong. All right, Claudine. It's, No. Yeah, Claudine. I got it. Yeah. I've already erased her from my memory. I don't care. 8:35, Jamie Baxter, Exodus 90. He's the guy that came up with the whole, abstinence discipline that I'm really enjoying here on day 3. It's Larry O'Connor alongside the next president of Harvard University, Julie Gunlock. Julie, thanks for being here. Good morning to you. It's going to be a woman. We know that. They got to replace her with a woman. Yeah. People are demanding that it be a black woman, the new president of Harvard. It must be. I love the people who are jumping out there, the Mark Lamont's Hill. The next president of Harvard must be a black woman, which, by the way, suggests that black people are just interchangeable.
Yes. Right? Yes.
Right? We don't care about the individual. One black woman is, that's the important thing.
And we also don't care about the qualifications or,
Nope. Just make black woman.
Yeah.
That's how we get a great vice president like Kamala Harris. So I'm with Mark Lamont Hill. I think a black woman would be. I'd love Winsome Sears to be the next governor of Virginia, but I think she could even do better. Bringing her AR-15 into the halls of Harvard.
They could use a little
and stomping around. People were saying, "What about Condoleezza Rice?" There are plenty of black women who don't fit. Sage Steele would be a fine president of Harvard. A black woman who doesn't.
Dr. Carol Swain.
There you go. The woman who
now she was
they already
one
love
of the
her writing.
Victims of the plagiarism. Yes, they love her writing. Exactly.
Yeah. Of course, by now you know that
I vote for Patrice.
Patrice Onwuka, of course. What was I thinking? Yeah. I just don't see the world through racial lenses, so it didn't occur to me. Julie, it's important. Listen, we talked about this quite a bit yesterday. We talked about the latest round of plagiarism charges against her, where, again, any Harvard student. I said on the air yesterday, what's stopping a Harvard student from turning in their next paper via copy-paste?
That's right.
Just here. What are you going to do about it?
Right.
And obviously that position had been untenable for Claudine Gay to maintain, or the Board of Regents, or the Harvard Corporation, or whatever it is. But let's be clear here, and this is what's mostly important. Claudine Gay eventually was forced to resign because of the over 50 occurrences of plagiarism that were discovered.
Yeah.
But what's more instructive is what did not contribute to her resignation, what she didn't have to resign over. And people forget the timeline here. The terrorist attacks in Israel happened on October 7th, of course. On October 8th, the next day, while people were still lying in pools of blood, before Israel had acted in any way in retaliation, there was no military response in any way on October 8th. But that was the day that over 35 student organizations in Harvard came out with written statements supporting Hamas.
That's right.
And condemning Israel, the victims of this terror attack. And a day or two after that, President Claudine Gay of Harvard issued her own statement providing context to the student groups, explaining their hatred of Israel and their embrace of Hamas terrorists.
Because ultimately, everyone was sort of okay with what happened on October 7th.
Claudine, the student body at Harvard, with those written statements, clearly felt comfortable supporting the terrorists and condemning the victims.
We knew what had happened at that music festival.
100%. 100%.
At that point, because I think it's important to say, it's not like on October 8th, people were still fuzzy on the details. No. This is the modern day where everyone has an iPhone and people were able to report what was happening. That they had paragliders land by that music festival, and they murdered those people.
And we saw the videos of the women with blood-stained pants who had just been sexually assaulted and then thrown into vehicles to be taken hostage by these terrorists. The student groups felt emboldened.
We saw a dead body, a female dead body in the back of a truck.
That's right.
Where they were spitting on her and kicking her. Her legs had obviously been broken.
And the climate that Claudine Gay has encouraged at Harvard and fostered at Harvard made those student groups completely emboldened and comfortable coming out, celebrating the terrorists and condemning the victims, number one. Then when Claudine Gay, the president of Harvard, actually finally said something publicly about that, all she did was provide context and run interference for the supporters of Hamas.
Let's not forget Claudine Gay, who has been fine with kicking conservative speakers off campus and harassing them, suddenly became a champion of free speech.
Right.
That's right. When it's Jew hatred, then I'm going to get all my panties in a wad about free speech. But go
that's
ahead.
right. And then 1 month ago this week, she faced off along with the president of the University of Pennsylvania and the president of MIT. She faced off with the education committee led by Virginia Fox. And Elise Stefanik of New York asked point blank, is calling for the genocide of Jews, which is exactly what these protesters have been doing. They've been saying intifada, worldwide intifada. Intifada means get rid of the Jews, kill the Jews. Does that violate the code of conduct at Harvard? And her response under oath in congressional testimony.
So is the genocide of Jews violate Harvard's rules of bullying and harassment, yes or no?
It can be, depending on the context.
What's the context?
Targeted as an individual, at an individual.
It's targeted at Jewish students, Jewish individuals.
Now, all of that we just laid out for you, that Julie and I just did from the terrorist act to the statement to her providing context and running interference for the terrorists, sympathizers on her campus, to that moment in congressional testimony where she says, well, certain contextual necessities would be employed when calling for the genocide of the Jewish people before anyone violates our code of conduct. All of that we just laid out, perfectly fine with Harvard leadership, perfectly fine with the Board of Regents, perfectly fine with Harvard Corporation. In fact, Barack Obama bent over backwards and twisted himself into a pretzel to make sure that Claudine Gay stays. Despite all of that, that was all fine. It wasn't until now the 50th allegation of plagiarism that they finally decided, you know what, this is making us look bad.
The 50th allegation of plagiarism revealed by right-of-center media, ignored
that's right.
by so-called mainstream media, which is leftist media.
In fact, the reaction to the Washington Free Beacon and right-of-center media for actually discovering this and investigating it and reporting it, I don't know, what's the word I'm looking for? Doing journalism.
Yeah, doing their job.
The reaction to that is the next part of this story. But make no mistake, this is not really any indication that Harvard has changed in any way. Listen, I'm glad she's gone because she became a symbol of everything that's wrong with elite universities. She will be replaced by, we're already hearing that she'll be replaced by absolutely the exact same kind of person. Well, yeah, I wonder if a question will be asked during the next person's evaluation for the job. Not, have you ever plagiarized anyone's work for any of your published papers? No. I want them to ask the question, where do you stand on protests on campus celebrating the Hamas terror attacks of October 7th? Do you think that's okay? Mm-hmm. I don't think it'll come up, frankly. And that's the real problem. So there's much more to say about this. And yes, as Julie just alluded, the full-on attack on journalists for actually discovering this story. In any other time, this would be Pulitzer Prize-winning work, but instead, since it was a conservative media outlet, they are getting condemned right now by the Associated Press. We'll give you those details in just a moment. First, though, it's 5:15. WMAL traffic and weather every 10 minutes first on the
WMAL.
Making sense of the news.
Live
From the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios.
Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
WMAL. Making sense of the roads. Because traffic doesn't always follow the pattern. Download the WMAL app to stream us for free.
Listen, it's a victory of sorts, in that, truth and justice and fair play is, getting a modicum of respect here with the forced resignation of Claudine Gay. But make no mistake, Harvard hasn't changed. And and by the way, this is Elise Stefanik. How vindicated is Elise Stefanik at this moment? 2 of those 3 Ivy League presidents have now been forced to resign. And
Virginia Fox, and God bless our favorite.
Absolutely, we love Virginia Fox. That was a great hearing, and this is what you want from a congressional. Everybody who slams members of Congress, like all they're doing is asking questions and talking. Do something. Well, Congress can't fire the president of Harvard, but Congress can expose who they are.
Yeah, and honestly, it's someone made this. This is not me. Someone on Twitter made this interesting observation. They said COVID revealed to parents the rot in the K through 12 education system, and October 7th has exposed. October 7th is sort of like the COVID for K through 12. It has exposed the deep rot and corrupt thinking within higher ed. We knew this. Yeah. Conservatives have known this for years and years and years. But you know who didn't know? Bill Ackman and the other billionaires that are pulling their money from these. So in that way, this hearing that Virginia Fox had, it moved the dollars. It is moving the dollars, and that matters to Harvard.
Yeah, that's a great point there, Julie Gunlock. In fact, according to the Washington Examiner, more than 1,600 major donors have ditched elite universities over the anti-Semitic concerns that were exposed by the October 7th terror attacks. And I guess Hamas accomplished something with this. By the way, coming up at 6:05, we're giving you full coverage on this story and what the larger ramifications are. Angela Morabito is joining us at 6:05. She, of course, was the press secretary for the Secretary of Education during the Trump administration. Cal Thomas will have plenty to say about it. Adam Gullette, Accuracy of Media, will join us at 8:05. Of course, Adam, his home's been swatted like 10 times now because he brought those rolling billboards to these Ivy League campuses.
Exposing these students that are part that, and Adam Gullette gets a lot of crap for this, but let's be clear. He goes around with these billboards showing students who are quite influential on these college campuses. They are the heads of, sort of the student law group or the student this group or that group, whatever. Mm-hmm. And I think that's really important to know the students that lead these, if they're essentially like professional organizations on the campus.
Right. Because that ends up being a resume credit that gives you an entree into a major law firm or a major corporation.
That's right.
And now it will be scrutinized.
Right. If you think back on those early days after October 7th, there was no suspension of students. There was no cost to walking around calling for the death of Jews.
That's right.
There were no costs to these students. Adam Gullette is the only one who's trying to change that. Not Claudine Gay, not these other university presidents. They did nothing.
By the way, Claudine Gay was absolutely consistent on her way out. Her resignation letter makes no mention of her serial plagiarism, no apology to the people that she stole from. She called it racist.
Right.
She called the whole thing racist. This is what DEI is all about. Coming up, the next other part of this story that requires your attention is how the mainstream media, who ignored this story and was forced, dragged kicking and screaming to actually acknowledge that there might be a problem here, they turned, as soon as the resignation came in, they turned all of their attention and their focus and their full frontal assault on the journalists who actually discovered it, from Chris Rufo to the Washington Free Beacon. We'll share that with you in just a moment. It's 5:22. Julie Gunlock, our friend Chris with a C on X.com, reminds us that Claudine Gay did not lose her job because of racism and sexism. She got her job because of racism and sexism, which is undeniably true and well put. But if you read the Associated Press, the real story here is right-wing conservative media. This is the greatest headline. Are you ready for this one?
Yeah, I'm ready.
I'm not. Hang on. Here it is. Harvard president's resignation highlights new conservative weapon against college plagiarism. It's a new conservative weapon. Politico's How the Right Toppled Harvard's President. Nightly reports on the right's coordinated campaign that helped engineer the departure of the head of the most influential university in the world.
I have one too. BBC, Harvard's Claudine Gay is a casualty of a campus culture war. She's the victim. She's the casualty.
In the New York Times article reporting on the resignation of Claudine Gay, it says this. Dr. Gay's resignation came after the latest plagiarism accusations against her were circulated in an unsigned complaint published on Monday in the Washington Free Beacon, a conservative online journal that has led a campaign against Dr. Gay over the past few weeks. See, the Washington Free Beacon was not doing journalism. They weren't reporting. They weren't investigating. They were leading a campaign against Dr. Gay. You know what? The difference between the Washington Free Beacon's efforts here and the New York Times efforts covering the so-called Russian collusion story for 3 years is that the Free Beacon was actually reporting on the truth.
Yes.
And the New York Times just kept reporting lies.
Right.
But it's the Free Beacon that's the problem. You know, Julie, you were with us at the Dow Awards. The Dow Awards was created by Young America's Foundation, but the offshoot National Journalism Center, which I'm on the board of. It's led by Emily Jasinski, and my friends Katie Pavlich is also on the board with me at the National Journalism Center. And we came up with the Dow Awards for Investigative Journalism because the Pulitzer Committee would never look at conservative-leaning media outlets who were doing very good investigative journalism. And the winner, of course, was Matt Taibbi and the gang over there at the Twitter Files. That was a huge story. It is significant,
though. They won $100,000.
$100,000 prize. But coming up in second place and in third place, the second and third runner-up to the Dow Award were journalists from the Washington Free Beacon doing great work there.
And they each won money as well, so good for them. Yes.
It's 5:30.
WMAL-FM, Woodbridge, Washington, a Cumulus media station.
Making sense of the news.
News Talk 105.9.
News now.
On 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
5:36 here on O'Connor and Company. Thanks for joining us on this Wednesday morning. We got you covered. Left, right, and center. Right and center. Well, we got you covered right. But you're all coming over to our side. 6:05, Angela Morabito, more on the crisis in higher education. 6:35, Cal Thomas. 7:05, Hans von Spakovsky on the effort to keep Trump off the ballot. 8:05, Adam Gillette, accuracy in media. And then at 8:35, Jamie Baxter, Exodus 90, to sort of explain, if you really want a robust New Year's resolution life, walk the path I'm walking. That's all coming up. I'm Larry Connor alongside Julie Gunlock.
Good morning.
Good morning, Julie. I think it's fair to say that Alan Dershowitz would still call himself a Democrat, a liberal Democrat, in fact. Alan Dershowitz, of course, a noted Harvard legal scholar. But in the Trump era, I think in particular, he's been somewhat red-pilled. Mm-hmm. He has sort of seen the hypocrisy and lies on the left, and especially the distortion of the legal system used as a weapon for political purposes instead of to seek the truth. I think it's fair to say that many things that Alan Dershowitz espoused probably 10, 20 years ago, I wouldn't agree with. Probably he wouldn't agree with now, knowing what has been done with regard to academia, et cetera. So that's why it's even more dramatic to see this shift in Alan Dershowitz with the words he had to say about Barack Obama and Barack Obama's statements and positions on the state of Israel. No, make no mistake, Alan Dershowitz during the Obama era was a huge supporter of the president. He was, in fact, a law professor at the time that Obama was at Harvard, same place that spawned Claudine Gay, it should be noted. Although, I want to be clear, he never actually proclaimed that Obama was a great student. In fact, he never made any comment about Obama's academic prowess in his class.
Which we still don't know about.
Yeah, we're not allowed to know. He has said, Dershowitz has said that Ted Cruz was the smartest student he ever had.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then when asked about Obama, he said, yeah, I taught him too.
No.
That's about it. But Obama's abandonment of the Israeli people and the Israeli government, the state of Israel, in light of the October 7th attacks, has been a bridge too far for Dershowitz. And I want you to listen to this. Now, it's got some dramatic music that's been added to it to sort of boost the melodrama. But if you can look past that and hear his words, I think that you'll be pretty stunned by this latest statement from Alan Dershowitz.
You can't make those kinds of comparisons, Barack Obama, and I have to tell you, what you did is just despicable. It's beneath contempt. And whatever respect I had for you, I have absolutely lost. Fortunately, so have many other Americans lost respect for you. And I'm hoping that you have no influence on the current administration, future Democratic administrations, and that your lack of morality ends up in the dustbin of history where it belongs. And so I'm ashamed that I was your friend. I'm ashamed that I invited you to my birthday party. I'm ashamed that I accepted your invitation to the Oval Office. And I'm ashamed that I allowed you to fool me into thinking that you actually supported Israel. You do not. Nobody who has any love for Israel in their heart would ever make the kind of obscene, obnoxious comparison you made between murder, rape, kidnapping, burning of civilians, and a disputed occupation that could have ended over and over again if the Palestinians had only accepted the deals offered by President Clinton and by others in the American administration, not by you. You didn't do anything to help the peace process, but Clinton did, and Trump did, and others did, but not you. All you did was condemn Israel. Don't count on me and my support. You have been an enemy to justice, an enemy to Israel, an enemy to the Jewish people, and an enemy to decency. I'm embarrassed that I ever thought it as highly as you, as I obviously did. I was fooled by you. I'll never be fooled again.
Wow. That's very strong. And it didn't need the music. By the way, kids, if you're putting videos together out there on social media, drop the music. It's not necessary.
Yeah, it's that good.
The words are powerful, and you're an enemy of justice. You're an enemy of Israel. You're an enemy of the Jewish people.
Well, yeah, and some of these headlines showing what Obama has done and said.
Yes.
Obama urging Americans to take a whole truth of the Israel-Gaza war. Obama says people need to acknowledge the complexity of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict to move forward. Obama warns of some of Israel's actions in Gaza may backfire. Nobody's hands are clean. Obama breaks with Biden on language around Israel's support.
Yeah.
He is a despicable man.
Yeah. Yeah, what's happening to the Palestinians is unbearable, he said, and nobody's hands are clean. He kept using this, we. Now, what about you? What do you mean nobody's hands are clean? You were president of the United States for 8 years. You
start to understand the Claudine Gay mindset.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
This is where it comes from.
Yeah, it is, and one wonders how many other Alan Dershowitzes are out there where this has become a bit of a touch point in their lives when they actually can see clearly now. And listen, I understand why people liked Barack. I never did. Barack Obama always, I found him to be condescending and patronizing and arrogant, and he treated people who disagreed with him like they were dirt under his shoes, and then pretended to be just a kind, affable guy. I saw through it pretty quickly. When you're an elitist Harvard law professor like Alan Dershowitz was, I understand that it's kind of cool to have this guy on your team, right? I get that. But now the rubber's hit the road, and now you can actually see the toxicity he brought to the American political conversation and how evil his positions are on things like this. And one wonders how many other Alan Dershowitzes there are out there.
Yeah, well, there's certainly some with money, Bill Ackman being one of them, and that's a good thing.
And thank you to the great one, Mark Levin. I would not have seen this video had he not reposted it on his very active and critically important X.com social media page. If you're not following the Mark Levin show, you need to. It's 5:43.
For almost...
Thinking RuPaul might be a good Harvard president choice, right? Talk about checking the boxes there.
Yeah.
Black woman, but not really a woman. Drag Queen Story Hour daily at Harvard. This is a great thing.
I'm sure that's already happening.
A Hamas leader was killed yesterday. Yes. Absolutely fantastic. And it's reported that this Hamas leader was in the process of, first of all, meeting with Hezbollah, two organizations funded by Iran who got billions of dollars from Joe Biden this year. And as he was fleeing the area, he was killed by Israeli Defense Forces, and that's a good thing. But then they took pictures of everything that he had in his possession. It included a briefcase full of cash.
American U.S. cash?
Yeah, not euros.
Wow.
Not Israeli currency. Does Gaza have a currency? Do they would like rocks and pebbles or something?
Exactly.
But no, he had a briefcase full of greenbacks, U.S. dollars,
nice.
Benjamins. Yeah.
Thank you to the U.S. taxpayers.
Well, sure. Where would he get those American dollars other than from Joe Biden, from Democrats? Again, as we're in a presidential year now, it's clarifying to recognize exactly the world we're living in, how it compared to a year 3 years ago when we were under a different president. When President Trump took office, he cut off all U.S. aid to Gaza because they were run by Hamas terrorists.
Yes.
Joe Biden became president, and pretty much that first week, he opened up the tap again.
Yep.
Here
we are.
And here we are. All right, in other news, the left, because they're diverting their money from college campuses, as we've mentioned, they're instead giving it to Gaza. They're being guilted into giving money to Gaza under the guise of humanity.
Yes. And we know how this ends up.
Sure. Liberals restore $25 million to a controversial UN relief agencies for Palestinian refugees. This is the UNWRA, UNWRA fund, that had been suspended because of nefarious practices of that organization.
They're in bed with Hamas and Hezbollah.
That's correct.
Absolutely.
100%. So according to the write-up here in the Canadian press, the federal Liberals are providing more substance for these organizations, for this organization specifically. Conservative foreign affairs critic in Canada, Peter Kennett, said, "I'm horrified. Massive amounts of UN aid have been redirected to support Palestinian military efforts against Israel. We have abundant evidence that UNRWA is part of the problem." But, this is what the elite left does on the international stage. They funnel all of their money through the UN, and the UN is corrupt.
The UN is listen, it's really important people understand, especially around this time where people are giving. Anything with UN in it is corrupt. I remember 20 years ago working on the North Korean issue and the North Korean refugee issue, and the UN would return North Korean refugees who'd managed to escape to China. They would return them to North Korea, where they would be killed. Yeah. And the UN was involved in this. I mean, remember the UN Foods for Oil scandal? There were so many cases of the UN, of these so-called humanitarian agencies within the UN being totally corrupted. And frankly, all you need to do is look at the UN. I mean, the fact that the UN Human Rights Council includes China.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's nothing good about the UN.
I think Iran is also on the Human Rights Council. Yeah, it's outrageous. And there used to be a time, I remember, I used to say that the only worthy cause out of the United Nations is UNICEF. But even UNICEF has become corrupted. No, exactly. 100% corrupted. Yep. And by the way, what nation props up the UN and funds it more than any other nation? That would absolutely be us. They get that east side of Manhattan, Riverside property for free.
You actually have Iran government officials who call for the death of Jews and Americans on U.S. property because the Biden administration thinks that, because the UN's here, we have to give them a pass. That's not true.
Yeah.
It's time to defund the UN.
By the way, it's the third day of January 2024, New Year, and this is our my second program at least. I know that you and Andrew were on New Year's Day, but I monitored it. I checked the content, and I realized we've gone now, over 2 days into the new year without mentioning Taylor Swift. So
you just ruined it.
I have to because, of course, Taylor Swift just a couple of months ago, or last month, Taylor Swift and Selena Gomez attended a fundraiser for Gaza.
Yeah, nice.
Again, nice. All of the virtue signaling that you're seeing from Hollywood now.
Yeah. Where's the telethon for the rape victims in Israel?
They were photographed attending a stand-up comedy show on
Idiots.
December 8th. Proceeds of the event going towards so-called humanitarian relief in Gaza. But there is no humanitarian relief in Gaza because all of the money funnels through Hamas. Yes. Hamas is the government of Gaza. You don't get money to anyone in Gaza. There is no infrastructure other than the Hamas government. They take all the money. They take what they want to keep the rocket. Why do they need humanitarian relief as they continue to send rockets across the border?
In Gaza, there have been some cases of people sort of protesting Hamas because Hamas is not releasing the humanitarian the food that's coming into Gaza from these humanitarian groups. And so the people in Gaza are actually like, wait a minute, Hamas, now you've gone too far. Now I love that. Now you've gone too far.
The greatest thing that if Hamas really did care about the Palestinian people, as they claim, and all of the left-wing supporters of Hamas claim that they're, there's the terrorists, but then there's also the elected officials. They're different, right?
Normal people.
And if they really cared, any responsible, humane, legitimate government entity facing the retaliation from the Israeli Defense Forces, if they truly cared about their people, they would surrender. They would raise the white flag. They would say, my people are more important than my power. My people are more important than my corrupt leadership. I will release all the hostages unconditionally. White flag, please don't shoot. Hands up, but please help my people. But they don't do that. They don't do that. They use their people as human shields, and they cling on to their power.
But it's complicated, Larry. It's complicated.
Yes. That's right. I don't understand the nuance of this story because I don't have an Ivy League degree.
Right.
And I'm not Taylor Swift, who really does sort of
idiot.
Drill down into the nuance and the details of geopolitical affairs. God, her bangs look good in this picture, though, I got to say. It's 5:50.